Greetings, my name is Rod Spencer. I work at Cambridge Interactive Development Corporation here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Currently it is fall here in New England, most certainly a season of change. This is true for our business as well. And so I would like to share with you a new vision for CIDC to consider. One that I believe can provide profound improvement in business, but requires just a short walk considering our current abilities. Consider that in 1995, an online exotic bookstore was founded. For 5 years, they made nothing. Then they extended their service to other third parties, and in 2006, standardized on this now famous service model. By 2010, they had made over $1 billion in net income on $34 billion in revenue. We all know this one-time bookstore as Amazon.com. Consider also, in 2003, a website is started not far from our location here in Cambridge. It was for others to vote on which faces they considered hot or not. Very quickly, by 2005, they adopted a web service model for social networking. And by 2010, their net income was $355 million on $1.2 billion in revenue. And of course, we know this company as Facebook. There are many such direct providers online that have struggled, but have turned around their companies by becoming lucrative service providers. The current trends in maturing online businesses are clear. Work up the supply chain. Find that commonality of function that moves your business from a provider of products to a provider of services for product suppliers. So, you may be asking, how can a service model work for CIDC? Let's take that short walk. We are here. We are game providers. As a game provider, we provide access to online games and receive revenues from those who play them. We manage their access and their money. However, using what we already know and do, we could reach much further with minor but shared efforts. Rather than being a game provider, we could become a game service provider. Our service would be to provide game kits so that others can easily become game providers. And we would enjoy dramatically greater revenues from a smaller percentage of a much greater revenue stream, a smaller piece of a much larger pie. Let's take a look at this game kit. A game kit is our online service. These tools to create will inspire and cater to creative, business-minded organizations and individuals by freeing them from the drudgery of programming animations and transactions. It will allow them to pick from a wide variety of customizable game templates. It will produce a build space which is generated and allows the user to create and apply their own art or pick it from a library of clip art. This is true for background images, interactive parts, and they can even select and decorate their own controls from pre-programmed functions. Their work in progress is retained in their build space. Here they can revisit to try it out at any time. When they are ready to own their creation, they submit it and identify the hosting domain, the intended use, be that gambling, advertisement, or other, and the desired length of license. This information is submitted and they await approval. Once approved, final payment is made and the result is transferred from the build space to the owner's host site. This transfer includes an embedded license that validates the content is authorized and unaltered, and embedded support functions that ensure autonomous reliability while allowing us to monitor usage and control distribution. I believe that there are many such TIMs and many such uses. We can leverage much of what we already know to lucratively cater to many such creative business spirits. But the path we take requires not only this vision, but a plan. Let us discuss the general tone and direction of this effort. The focus of this effort is to be continuously mindful of who's going to buy the darn thing. In the short term, answering that question involves obtaining our first exploratory customers. We will approach and work with small businesses who desire to become or desire to expand their role as game providers and are willing to be concept contributors. We will assist them by hand-applying their art to create their custom creations, reusing our current repertoire of casino games. For their assistance, we will provide them preferred customer status. With this practical experience, we will learn what to build, what to sell, and then start to run. In the long term, we will prove our value through self-funding and permission capital. We will employ discovery-based planning, which relies on a reverse income statement, allowing us to set expectations and test assumptions as we go along. And finally, our activities, indeed our practices, will be focused on a prioritization of an ever-improving estimate of ROI. Every successful endeavor requires a focus that is considerate of discoveries in understanding business needs and the capabilities of technology. To this end, it is necessary to separate and therefore heighten responsibilities between discovering market needs, defining the behavior of the system, and establishing the design. To institutionalize this practice of innovation, I will describe something that I have successfully used at over 30 corporations while at IBM. I refer to it as the wave of progress. Fully 1/4 of the effort will be focused on establishing the overall vision, qualifying and quantifying the features, establishing the basics of behavior, and the details of behavior, and 3/4 of the effort will be based in development. Let's look at the progress of each in time. The first phase of development involves establishing a somewhat stable vision with the stakeholders. As part of this, we have established some initial guesses at our features through something called feature qualification, to be detailed in a second. In addition, we have established some behavioral basics through something we call use cases and developed some detailed scenarios to guide our initial prototype work for the applique technology. Once the vision and key features are stabilized with the stakeholders, we are free to detail the majority of the behavior of the system. Also at this point in time, we will have a demonstrable architecture for the critical applique technology. This architecture typically represents that 20% of the code that drives 80% of the shape of the design. Once the behavior is stabilized and the overall architecture proven, then we go about developing the majority of the code. This represents the largest portion of the effort. At this point, for the first time, the customer has our product in their hands, and they will be providing valuable feedback that will allow us to make this product more self-sustaining and gain user acceptance. Let us explore for a moment what is meant by feature qualification and quantification. There are many approaches that are in common use across more successful companies. In general, they are part of a larger subject known as market-driven portfolio management, specifically keeping the three ducks of risk, investment, and returns in line. Feature qualification starts with a guess on what features the customers may like. This typically requires a sit-down focus group and a form that allows them to contribute their own ideas. As a result of their prioritization of features, including their own, we end up with a newly sorted list of most desired features down to those that are least desired. With this, we hypothesize various systems with ever-increasing sets of these features. These qualified features are then used to establish what the expected receipts or revenues would be for various systems. This is called feature qualification and requires a more rigorous survey activity. As a result of this activity, we now have expected returns for a series of hypothesized systems. We can quantify, at least get an initial guess, for what the investment will be to create these features. This is based on the use case technology described earlier, provided that the activities involved in developing those use cases follow some very specific rules. As a result of these expected returns and these expected costs, one can combine them to produce a guess at the various ROI for different systems with different sets of features. And we would best choose something that is most lucrative and not in the realm of diminishing returns for additional expenditures. This may be one of several such projects, in this particular case showing one that has a higher ROI and a higher project risk. Those with lower ROI and low project risks in the lower left are the nature of product that one needs to sustain regular operations, euphemistically keeping the lights on. A project such as the one I'm showing here with the red circle is considered a future project, one with higher returns and certainly higher risks. And as it starts out as a guess, part of the project management activities requires refining this guess as we go along, part of the discovery-based planning. Such a portfolio of projects with varying degrees of return on investment and risk allow corporations to maintain a dashboard of both their current activities and future growth. Such practices allow corporations to move beyond opinion and base decisions on real, quantified market needs. Recognizing that knowledge is partial, it allows a corporation to balance investments, risk, and return as more information becomes available to establish their overall strategies. It allows them to drive market-validated ideas within projects and monitoring the right financial factors over time. And finally, they allow corporations to manage the scope of projects by knowing the value of various features that may need to be added or jettisoned as project discoveries are made. Such an overall strategy puts a practical handle on how one goes about managing projects. It allows the project to proceed based on the priority of earnings and at the same time manage technical risk. In terms of the proposed project, there are certain risks involved. Top on my list is that it involves new thinking, moving to a service-based business. This requires a revised go-to-market strategy and perceived risk from loss of control, as our customers now will be doing what we used to do ourselves. A second risk are the new practices we need to adopt. We must learn to contend with a higher volume of feedback as we are dealing with a higher volume of customers. We certainly will have an increased amount of product out there to contend with as far as deployment, although a lot of it will be automatically deployed. In addition, we need to develop the applique technology that allows our customers to customize their art and control selections. And we need to develop the remote license management technology. And finally, the last risk that I'm calling out is that of branding. This constitutes both a challenge and an opportunity. Do we intend to cross-sell, which means that we do it under the same brand, or do we have separate brands? And we need to develop upsell strategies. What is the hierarchy of products from free to more expensive, and how do we encourage customer migration up that hierarchy? In total, these represent the typical challenges of being successful. So let's look at the advantages. It will expand and stabilize revenue as we are now selling to a more diversified set of markets. In addition, our end product will have tighter localization as that activity is carried out by third parties. And it transfers risk to those third parties. It involves a low capital and low labor activity for CIDC as it leverages our core competencies. It's a familiar market, and it's a simple extension of our existing technology. Furthermore, it shifts reinvestment to a greater variety of games, furthering the penetration as now we are no longer just creating additional art for the same games. And as we release new games, it will maintain the buzz of our new offerings in the market. And finally, it will allow us ultimately to segue to other interactive offerings in new markets. So, in total, we know the way, and we can start today. I believe this to be a short walk that will go far in terms of improving our performance. This has been Rod Spencer of CIDC.